Picture this, my friends. You're scrolling through your feed, and suddenly you see that couple. You know the one. They look like something out of a movie. They're laughing together in a cafe, holding hands in the park, posting pictures on vacation, like they've cracked the code to happiness. Everything seems perfect, and you sit there wondering, how did they get that? How do two people become so locked in, so magnetic, that the rest of the world just fades away? Because let's be real, most of us want that kind of connection. Not the half-hearted stuff, not the late-night maybe text, or the situationship where you're never quite sure where you stand. No, we want the kind of bond where you know, without question, that you've been chosen. Out of everyone else, out of all the options, you're the one. But here's the million-dollar question. How do you actually get there? What's the secret that makes someone reject every other choice and see you as the only option? It's not the clothes, it's not the money, it's not even looks, because we've all seen people who aren't model material living in legendary relationships. The truth is, being unforgettable in love has nothing to do with polishing yourself into someone you're not. The real secret? It's about how you carry yourself. It's about that rare, almost electric energy you give off when you stop begging to be chosen and start living like you already are. And I know, folks, easier said than done, right? Especially if you've been on the other side of rejection. Maybe you've poured yourself into someone who barely noticed. Maybe you gave your best, only to be treated like a backup plan. Maybe you sat staring at your phone, waiting for a message that never came. That pain cuts deep, because rejection makes you believe you weren't enough. But here's the truth they don't want you to know. You were always enough. The problem wasn't you. The problem was you didn't yet flip the script. Think of it this way. Imagine being at a giant buffet with 1,000 different dishes. Everything looks good. Everything is an option. But then one dish stops you in your tracks. The flavor is unforgettable. The seasoning is perfect. And suddenly nothing else on the table compares. That's what happens when you shift into your true power. You become the flavor they can't forget. You become the one they crave, even when surrounded by endless options. And here's the kicker. You don't have to do 1,000 things to get there. You don't have to chase, beg, or twist yourself into someone you're not. All it takes is one shift, one move, one moment where you stop playing their game and start setting the rules. Do this just once, and I promise you, they'll feel it. They'll see you differently. They'll start wondering, wait, how did I overlook this? How did I let this person slip away? Folks, this isn't about revenge. It's not about proving them wrong with flashy moves or new flings. This is about stepping into a version of yourself so legendary, so unforgettable, that they can't help but choose you. And when you do, they'll regret ever doubting you. They'll scroll through those other options and realize none of them compare. So buckle up, my friends, because in this journey, we're not just talking about love. We're talking about how you set yourself apart in such a way that when they look around at 1,000 choices, they'll only see you. And the best part? You won't even have to chase. Number 1. The struggle against old conditioning. You can't heal in the same environment that made you sick. Ever heard that line? It's true for love too, folks. The hardest part of this whole journey isn't about stepping into your power. It's about letting go of the junk that was wired into you long before you even knew what love was. That's why this transformation feels so heavy. You're not just learning something new, you're unlearning years, maybe decades, of conditioning that told you your worth comes from being chosen by someone else. Let's be real here. Most of us grew up on lies about love. Movies, songs, family stories, they all whispered the same thing. If someone rejects you, it means you weren't good enough. Or worse, if you just try harder, love harder, give more, they'll eventually see your value. And so you learn to hustle for love like it was a job interview. Smile enough, be agreeable enough, don't upset them, don't ask for too much. Maybe then they'll keep you. But let's call it what it is, nonsense. That kind of thinking is like trying to water a dead plant. You can pour the whole ocean into that pot, but if the roots are gone, nothing is growing. The problem isn't that you didn't give enough. The problem is you believed you had to earn what should have been freely given in the first place. Now, here's the kicker. Breaking out of that mindset feels terrifying. Why? Because it goes against everything you've been taught. Imagine spending your whole life walking in shoes 2 sizes too small. Painful, right? But after a while your feet get used to the squeeze. You convince yourself that's just how shoes are supposed to feel. Then one day, someone hands you a pair that actually fits, and suddenly you're uncomfortable in a new way. Not because it hurts, but because freedom feels strange when you've never known it. That's what unlearning harmful patterns is like. You see, the brain loves routine, even toxic ones. If you've always equated love with chasing, then standing still feels wrong. If you've always equated worth with approval, then self-confidence feels arrogant. If you've always believed alone equals unlovable, then choosing yourself feels like punishment. It's not that you're broken, it's that your programming is outdated, like trying to run today's apps on a flip phone. The system just can't handle it. Let's talk about fear, because fear is the biggest roadblock here. Fear whispers, if you stop chasing, they'll forget you. Fear says, if you stop performing, they'll replace you. Fear warns, if you stop accepting crumbs, you'll starve. And for years, you've believed it. You've stayed in relationships where you felt invisible because the thought of being alone felt worse. You've begged for scraps of attention because deep down you thought, well, at least it's something. But folks, let's be real. Starving on crumbs is still starving. The irony, fear is a terrible fortune teller. How many times did you cling to someone terrified of losing them, only to lose them anyway? How many times did you lower your standards, hoping they'd appreciate your sacrifice, only to have them take you for granted even more? Fear never actually protected you. It just kept you stuck in places where you were never going to be chosen fully. Here's the truth bomb, and it might sting. Love built on fear isn't love. It's dependency. It's addiction. It's like drinking salt water when you're thirsty. It feels like relief for a moment, but it's slowly draining the life out of you. Real love, the kind that makes someone choose you above all else, can only exist when you stand in your worth without fear. And that starts with tearing down the lies you've been fed. So let's expose those lies right now. Lie number 1. If I'm rejected, I'm not enough. Wrong. Rejection doesn't mean you're not enough. It means they couldn't see your value. Or worse, they weren't capable of handling it. Their blindness isn't your flaw. Lie number 2. If I love harder, they'll stay. False. Love isn't glue. If someone wants to leave, no amount of begging will anchor them. The right person stays because they choose to, not because you convince them. Lie number 3. Being alone means I've failed. Absolute garbage. Being alone often means you're refusing to settle. That's strength, not failure. Now I know, my friends, rewriting these beliefs isn't as easy as snapping your fingers. It's like trying to delete a song stuck in your head. You hum it, you fight it, you try to drown it out, but it plays on repeat. That's how conditioning works. But with every small act of courage, saying no to crumbs, refusing to chase, choosing yourself first, you start to replace the old track with a new one. Think of it like going to the gym. The first day, everything aches. You question why you even started, but give it time, and the same weight that once crushed you becomes something you can lift without breaking a sweat. That's how your emotional muscles grow. And here's the motivation you need to hear right now. Yes, this is hard. Yes, it will feel uncomfortable, but it is absolutely worth it, because on the other side of this struggle is a version of you that doesn't beg to be chosen. You command it. You don't fear rejection. You see it as redirection. You don't cling to the wrong person. You wait for the right one who sees you and says, "Out of all the options, I choose you." So let's seal this section with an affirmation. Write it in the comments, write it in your journal, shout it in your mirror if you need to. I am no longer chasing love out of fear. I choose myself, I honor my worth, and I trust the right person will choose me too. Type it out, my friends. Show yourself, show the world, because the moment you declare it, you're already breaking free from the old script. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to dive into what happens when you finally take that leap of trust, when you stop fearing, stop chasing, and start believing in your own magnetism. That's when things get really interesting. Number 2, the leap of trust. Trust is like a paper. Once it's crumpled, it can never be perfect again. That's the old saying, right? But here's the thing, folks. When it comes to trusting yourself, you're not dealing with paper. You're dealing with steel. It might bend under pressure, it might get scratched, but it can be reforged into something stronger than ever before. And this is where the real leap comes in. After you've wrestled with the lies and shaken off the conditioning, the next step isn't about working harder, chasing faster, or proving more. It's about trust. Trusting that just being yourself, the real unfiltered, take-me-as-I-am version of you, is enough to attract the right love. Now let's be real. This sounds simple, but it feels like jumping out of a plane without a parachute. Why? Because trust is scary. It means loosening your grip on control. It means believing that if you stop begging, the right person won't just walk away. It means daring to stand in your truth and say, if you can't love me as I am, then you're not my person. And for most people, that's terrifying. Think about it. We've been taught since day one that love is something you chase, something you earn. It's like those claw machines at the arcade. You spend your time, your money, your energy, and what do you usually get? A stuffed toy that wasn't even worth the effort. But you keep playing because you think, maybe next time. That's how we treat love, like a prize we win if we just try hard enough. But love isn't a claw machine. Love is a magnet, and the strongest magnet is your authentic self. Here's a question for you. Have you ever noticed how the people who don't care what anyone thinks somehow end up being the most attractive? The friend who walks into the party in flip-flops when everyone else is overdressed. The co-worker who laughs at their own mistakes without a hint of shame. The person who says exactly what's on their mind and somehow gets respected for it. That's trust in action. They're not pretending. They're not trying to fit. They're just being, and people can't help but gravitate toward that energy. That's what you've got to believe about yourself, that you deserve love you don't have to beg for. Let's pause there, because it's a big one. Begging for love is like begging for air. Imagine standing in front of someone saying, please, let me breathe. Please, let me live. It sounds ridiculous, right? Yet that's exactly what so many of us do emotionally. We beg for text replies. We beg for scraps of affection. We beg for the bare minimum, just to feel alive. But real love never makes you beg. Real love is like oxygen. It's just there, constant, reliable, free-flowing. You don't even have to think about it. You breathe, and it supports you. That's what the right love feels like. It doesn't keep you guessing. It doesn't leave you wondering if you're worthy. It doesn't come with conditions like, "I'll love you if you do this," or "I'll stay if you change that." Real love chooses you exactly as you are. And listen, I know some of you are shaking your heads right now thinking, "Sounds nice, but where was that love when I needed it? Why did I give my all and still get left behind?" Here's the tough truth. You weren't rejected because you weren't enough. You were rejected because you were giving your all to the wrong person. The wrong person will make the brightest light feel like it's not shining. But the right person? The right person will see you in all your rawness and think, "Finally." Trust means believing that the right person exists, that out of all the noise, all the games, all the options, someone out there will see you and say, "Yes, that one." Trust means you stop selling yourself on clearance just to make a sale and start valuing yourself like the masterpiece you are. And the wild part, the moment you do that, people notice. Your energy shifts, you walk different, you talk different, and suddenly those who once overlooked you are the ones leaning in, wondering how they missed it before. Of course, making this leap feels uncomfortable. Think of it like learning to ride a bike without training wheels. At first, every wobble feels like the end of the world. You panic, you want to grab the safety handles again. But the only way to really ride is to let go. Same with trust. You can't half-trust. You can't say, "I trust myself." But let me beg one more time, just in case. Number. Trust means letting go and believing you'll be caught by the right hands. So let's end this section with a little fire, folks. I want you to write this in the comments, write it in your journal, heck, tattoo it on your heart if you have to. I trust that being myself is enough. I trust that real love will choose me without games. I trust that I deserve love I'll never have to beg for. Type it out. Show yourself. Show the world. Because trust isn't just a mindset, it's a declaration. And once you make it, you're already halfway to living it. And stay tuned, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens once that trust takes root, the incredible fruits of transformation that come when you finally stop chasing and start living in your power. That's where the fun really begins. Number 3. The fruits of transformation. Love is like a fart. If you have to force it, it's probably crap. Yeah, I know it's a ridiculous quote, but admit it, you laughed. And sometimes the funniest lines carry the deepest truths, because real love should flow naturally. When you force it, chase it, or beg for it, all you end up with is mess. Now imagine this. You've done the hard part. You've started breaking away from old conditioning. You've taken that scary leap of trust. What comes next? This is where life gets good, my friends. This is where you finally taste the fruits of transformation. And the first fruit, freedom. Sweet, juicy freedom in love. No more walking on eggshells, terrified of saying the wrong thing. No more rewriting texts 12 times just to sound cool enough. No more lying awake at night overthinking whether your partner is pulling away. When you stop living from fear, you stop trying to control the outcome. You let the connection breathe. And guess what? That's when love actually grows. Think of it like holding sand in your hand. The tighter you squeeze, the faster it slips away. But when you relax your grip, it settles naturally. That's how real love works. When you stop trying to cage it, it stays. When you stop fearing it'll vanish, it roots deeper. Freedom doesn't kill love. it strengthens it. The second fruit, choosing relationships from wholeness, not neediness. Folks, this one's a game changer. Have you ever seen someone go grocery shopping while starving? They end up buying all kinds of junk they don't even want. Chips, candy, frozen burritos, anything to fill the hunger. That's what dating from neediness looks like. You accept whatever gives you quick relief, even if it's trash for your soul. But when you walk into the store full and satisfied, you make better choices. You pick things that nourish you, not just things that patch the hunger. That's what happens when you enter relationships from wholeness. You're not desperate for someone to complete you. You're already complete. You're choosing because you want to, not because you need to. And that's powerful. Because when you don't need someone to survive, you can finally love them freely. No clinging. No manipulation. No fear. And then comes the third fruit, the sweetest of them all, living with completeness, whether single or partnered. Imagine waking up in the morning and realizing your happiness doesn't depend on whether your phone lights up with a good morning text. Imagine going out to dinner by yourself and enjoying it just as much as if someone was sitting across from you. Imagine walking into a room full of couples and not feeling like the odd one out, but like the most radiant person there. That's completeness. Completeness doesn't mean you don't want love. Of course you do. We all crave connection. But it means your life is already full, with or without a partner. You're not sitting there thinking, I'll finally be happy when someone chooses me. You're already happy, and that happiness makes you magnetic. People feel it when they're around you. They sense the difference between someone who is whole and someone who is secretly starving. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you no longer need a relationship to feel complete, that's when the right relationship finds you, because your energy changes. You're no longer chasing. You're no longer performing. You're simply being. And that authenticity is irresistible. It's like walking into a crowded room where everyone's yelling for attention, and then there's you, calm, confident, glowing without trying. Guess who gets noticed first? Let's get real. This transformation doesn't mean life becomes perfect. You'll still have arguments, disappointments, maybe even heartbreaks, but here's the difference. Those moments won't define you anymore. They won't break you because your foundation isn't built on someone else's approval, it's built on your own self-worth, and that makes you unshakable. So let me ask you this. What would your life look like if you stopped begging for love and started living in freedom, wholeness, and completeness? How would you show up in conversations? How would you carry yourself at work, at parties, even on dates? You wouldn't be trying to impress. You wouldn't be nervous about being too much or not enough. You'd just be you, and that's exactly what makes you unforgettable. Here's the bottom line, folks. The fruits of this transformation aren't just about getting someone to choose you. They're about choosing yourself first, so that when love shows up, it's the cherry on top, not the whole cake. You become the person who doesn't settle, who doesn't beg, who doesn't shrink to fit. You become the person who attracts love because you already embody it. So let's seal this with another affirmation. Write it in the comments, post it on your mirror, whatever you need to do. Here it is. I am free in love. I choose from wholeness, not fear. I am complete whether single or with someone, and that makes me magnetic. Write it. Show it, prove it, to yourself, to me, to the world watching, because once you start living from this truth, you'll never go back to scraps again. And stay tuned, my friends, because in the next section, we're going to talk about how this transformation doesn't just change your relationships, it changes everything, your work, your friendships, even how you see yourself in the mirror. That's where the ripple effect begins. Number 4. Shifts in everyday life. You can fake it for a while, but eventually the mask gets itchy. That's the thing about pretending. It never lasts. And once you start stepping into your real power, the changes don't just show up in romance. They spill into every corner of your life, at work, with your friends, even in the way you talk to yourself in the mirror. Let's start with work. You ever notice how exhausting it is to always second-guess yourself in meetings, to keep wondering if your ideas sound smart enough, or to stay quiet because you don't want to look foolish? That's living from fear. But when you begin living authentically, something shifts. You stop rehearsing lines in your head before you speak. You stop watering down your ideas just to be safe. You actually trust your own voice. And that's when people around you start to take notice. Confidence is contagious. It makes others lean in. Suddenly, you're not the quiet background character anymore. You're the one people listen to. Then there's friendships. Let's be real. Competition creeps into friendships more often than we like to admit. Who's doing better in life? Who's looking hotter this summer? Who's dating someone more impressive? But when you're grounded in your own worth, you stop playing that game. You stop seeing your friends as rivals, and you start celebrating them like teammates. Imagine how freeing it feels to clap for someone's success without secretly comparing yourself. Imagine being genuinely happy when your friend wins because you know their win doesn't take anything away from you. That's the shift authenticity brings. And then there's the relationship with yourself, the foundation of everything. For most people, self-talk is brutal. You make a mistake and your brain goes, "Wow, you're such an idiot." You look in the mirror and see only flaws. You downplay your achievements like they don't matter. But once you build self-respect, that inner voice starts changing. Instead of "I'm a failure," it becomes "I'm learning." Instead of "I'm not good enough," it becomes "I'm a work in progress," and that's okay. That kind of shift is priceless, because how you talk to yourself sets the tone for how others treat you. Think of it like a phone signal. If your inner connection is weak, your relationships glitch and cut out. But when your self-respect is strong, the signal is clear, and every relationship you build, work, friends, love, runs smoother. People sense it. They respect the boundaries you set. They treat you better because you've already shown them how you expect to be treated. Here's the fun part. When you're authentic, you give everyone else around you permission to be authentic too. It's like being the first person to dance at a party. At first, people look at you funny, but after a while, they think, "Wait, if they can let loose, why can't I?" And suddenly the whole room is alive. That's the ripple effect of dropping your mask. You free others to do the same. So, let's be clear, this isn't just about love anymore. This transformation touches every corner of your daily life. You walk taller, you speak clearer, you celebrate louder, and the people around you, they feel it. Your co-workers respect you more, your friends trust you more, and you trust yourself in a way you maybe never have before. Let's wrap this up with an affirmation, folks. Write it in the comments, jot it in your notes, share it with someone who needs it. I choose authenticity in every part of my life. I respect myself, I celebrate others, and I trust my own voice. Type it out. Show yourself. Show the world, because these everyday shifts are proof you're not just changing your love life, you're changing everything. And in the next part, we'll see how this inner shift doesn't just improve your daily life. It makes your relationships stronger, healthier, and more lasting than ever before. Number 5. Stronger, healthier relationships. Two halves don't make a whole, they make a mess. You've probably heard people say, "I just need my other half." Cute idea for a Valentine's card, sure, but in real life, nah. If you walk into a relationship as a half, hoping someone else will complete you, all you get is two broken pieces trying to glue themselves together, and that glue never holds. This isn't just feel-good talk either. Even psychologists like Walter Riso, one of the greats when it comes to studying love and relationships, found that people who return to themselves, who stop begging for approval, who stop trying to earn love, don't just attract better partners, they create better relationships altogether. Why? Because when you're whole, you stop treating love like a lifeline and start treating it like a choice. Let's break this down. Stronger, healthier love begins when you stop being dependent. Dependency in love is like living with a Wi-Fi connection that cuts out every 5 minutes. You're always refreshing, always panicking, always wondering if it'll hold. But when you let go of that dependency, that's when love gets stable. You can give without draining yourself. You can receive without feeling like you owe something back. You can be vulnerable without fearing the whole thing will collapse. And let's talk about guilt for a second. How many of you have ever felt guilty for receiving love? Like when someone compliments you and instead of saying thank you, you downplay it. Or when a partner does something kind and your brain whispers, "You don't deserve this." That's old programming. Receiving love with guilt is like being handed a gift and then apologizing for opening it. But when you're whole, you understand that real love isn't about keeping score. It's about flow. You can accept kindness, affection, support, not as a debt, but as proof of a bond that's actually healthy. And yes, even arguments shift. In unhealthy dynamics, arguments feel like earthquakes. Every disagreement shakes the foundation. What if this ends us? What if they leave? So you either avoid conflict completely or you explode out of fear. But when you're grounded in yourself, arguments become just that. Arguments. Not doomsday. Not a sign you're unlovable. Just two humans working through differences. And ironically, that makes relationships stronger, because nothing kills love faster than walking on eggshells. Now, here's something fascinating. When you show up whole, the way people respond to you changes instantly, especially in romantic relationships. The person you're with no longer feels pressured to be your entire source of happiness. And guess what? That's a huge relief. They don't have to walk on eggshells worrying about every little thing they say or do. They don't feel like they're carrying the weight of your self-esteem on their shoulders. Instead, they get to just be. They get to love freely, without fear of failing you. And this works both ways. If someone is with you only because they enjoy the power of you depending on them, trust me, the moment you become whole, they'll vanish. And that's a blessing, not a loss. Because the right person doesn't need you to be weak in order to feel strong. The right person wants you strong so they can stand beside you, not above you. That's the secret Walter Riso uncovered in his research. When you build love from wholeness, you attract partners who are ready for the real thing. No more games, no more power struggles, no more "let me keep you insecure so you don't leave." Strong, healthy love is built between two people who are already standing tall, and they choose each other not out of fear, but out of freedom. So let's wrap this one up with an affirmation. Write it down, type it out, claim it loud. I choose relationships built on freedom, not fear. I give love without losing myself. I receive love without guilt, and I know that real love chooses me for who I am. Put it in the comments, show it to the world, remind yourself daily, because once you start living this truth, you'll never settle for shaky love again. And stay close, because in the next part we're diving into what happens when you raise your inner standards. Spoiler, a lot of people won't make the cut anymore, and that's exactly how you win. Number 6. Raising inner standards. Don't set yourself on fire to keep someone else warm. That quote stings a little, doesn't it? Because so many of us have done exactly that in relationships, lowered our standards, dimmed our light, sacrificed our peace, all for people who weren't even bringing a blanket to the table. But here's the beautiful thing about transformation. Once you start respecting yourself, your standards rise automatically. It's not about making a list of 101 impossible requirements like must be 6 foot, own 3 yachts, and write poetry on weekends. No. It's about becoming more selective, not out of arrogance, but out of clarity. You finally understand your worth, and you refuse to waste it on anyone who can't meet you at that level. Think of it like food shopping. When you're starving, you'll grab anything: stale chips, expired milk, mystery leftovers that should have been thrown out last week. But when you're full and satisfied, you don't settle for junk. You look for quality. You pick food that actually nourishes you. Same with relationships. When you're desperate, you accept toxic, immature, half-hearted love because it's better than nothing. But when you're whole, you don't need filler. You wait for the real meal. And here's where it gets fun. Raising your standards automatically filters people out. The immature ones, gone. The emotionally unavailable ones, they lose interest real quick. The ones who only wanted to play games, they stop calling. And, honestly, good riddance, because for too long you tolerated behavior that deserved a big, bold nope. People who couldn't communicate, people who wanted all the benefits of love with none of the responsibility. People who drained you and then acted like you were too much. When your standards rise, all of that becomes unacceptable. And I'll be real with you. At first, this can feel lonely. You'll look around and wonder, did I just scare everyone off? And maybe you did, but that's a win, not a loss, because you're no longer attracting time wasters. You're making space for people who are actually ready for mature, authentic love. Love where honesty isn't scary. Love where respect is mutual. Love where you're not the only one doing the heavy lifting. Here's the thing, raising your standards isn't about rejecting people for being imperfect. We're all flawed, my friends. It's about rejecting relationships that keep you small, relationships that leave you doubting your worth, relationships that drain instead of build. It's about saying, I'd rather be whole and alone than broken and together. And that's not pride talking, that's wisdom. Now, let's talk about attraction. Because when your standards go up, your energy changes. You carry yourself differently. You no longer walk into a room hoping to be chosen. You walk in knowing that if someone wants a chance with you, they better bring their best self to the table. And people feel that. They sense your self-respect, and it draws in those who are ready. Ready for consistency, ready for honesty, ready for love that doesn't feel like a constant test. Here's the paradox. The higher your standards, the more magnetic you become. Why? Because people are naturally drawn to what's rare, and self-respect is rare. Boundaries are rare. Wholeness is rare. When you embody those things, you stand out instantly. Out of 1,000 options, you're the one they can't ignore. Not because you begged, but because you dared to value yourself. So let's lock this in with an affirmation. Write it in the comments, say it out loud, tattoo it on your heart. I raise my standards because I respect myself. I reject what drains me, and I attract only what grows me. I deserve mature, authentic love, and nothing less. Type it. Show yourself. Show the world, because when you raise your standards, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. And that, my friends, is how you win. And buckle up, because next we're tackling one of the biggest fears of all, the fear of being alone. Spoiler, it's not a curse, it's actually one of your greatest superpowers. Number 7, raising inner standards. Stop watering dead plants. Simple advice, but how many of us have wasted years doing exactly that in relationships, pouring energy, love and effort into people who couldn't grow, wouldn't grow, or flat out didn't care? That's what happens when your standards are too low. You keep handing out 5-star treatment to people who should have been blocked after appetizer hour. But something magical happens once you begin respecting yourself. Your standards rise like bread in the oven, automatically. It's not about suddenly turning into a diva with a 10-page checklist like must have 6-pack abs, own 3 Labradors, and quote Shakespeare before breakfast. No, my friends, it's about clarity. It's about finally realizing your value and refusing to waste it on anyone who can't step up. Think of it like shopping when you're starving. You'll grab anything: soggy fries, gas station hot dogs, a questionable burrito that's been under the heat lamp since last Tuesday. That's desperation talking. And let's be real, you probably regret it later. But when you're full and satisfied, you shop differently. You're deliberate. You want food that nourishes you, not junk that gives you a stomachache. Relationships are the same. When you're desperate, you'll accept toxic, half-baked love because it feels better than nothing. But when you're whole, you don't settle for scraps. You wait for the real feast. Now here's the fun twist. Raising your standards is like putting up a velvet rope outside your heart. The party's still happening, but not everyone gets in. The emotionally immature, they don't even try. The game players, they quit when they realize their tricks don't work anymore. The commitment phobes, they ghost themselves. And honestly, good. For too long, you tolerated nonsense that deserved a one-way ticket to blocked and deleted. Poor communication, one-sided effort, people who made you feel too much for wanting the basics. Once your standards rise, all of that becomes a hard no. Now, I'll be straight with you. At first it feels weird, lonely even. You might look around and think, did I just clear the whole room? And maybe you did, but that's not a loss. That's a cleanse. You're not scaring people away. You're filtering out the ones who never had the capacity to love you right. You're creating space for those who are actually ready for honesty, for consistency, for respect. And raising your standards isn't about rejecting people for being imperfect. None of us are perfect. Newsflash, you're not either. It's about rejecting dynamics that keep you small. It's about saying, I will not stay in a situation where I doubt myself every day. It's about choosing wholeness over chaos. It's not arrogance, it's wisdom, because being whole and single beats being broken in a relationship any day. Here's the wild paradox. The higher your standards, the more magnetic you become. Why? Because people are drawn to rarity. And self-respect? Rare. Boundaries? Rare. Someone who knows what they will and won't accept? Rare. That's why, when you raise your bar, you stand out instantly. Out of 1,000 options, you're the one they can't ignore, not because you begged, but because you valued yourself. So let's ground this with an affirmation. Write it in the comments, whisper it in the mirror, put it on your fridge if you have to. I raise my standards because I respect myself. I reject what drains me, and I attract only what grows me. I deserve mature, authentic love, and nothing less. Type it, declare it, live it, because when you raise your standards, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. That's not just winning, that's transforming the whole game. And hang tight, because next we're tackling one of the scariest illusions, the fear of being alone. Spoiler alert, it's not a curse, it's your secret superpower. Number 8. The contagious effect of self-love. You can't pour from an empty cup. We've all heard that one, but here's the part nobody mentions. When your cup is full, it overflows. And when it overflows, everyone around you gets a sip of that energy. That's the contagious effect of self-love. The moment you start choosing yourself daily, people feel it. They notice it. And believe me, they respond to it in ways you couldn't even imagine. Let's start with you. When you love yourself, you stop settling for crumbs. You stop bending over backward for people who can't even meet you halfway. You start walking differently, speaking differently, carrying yourself differently. And that shift radiates. It's like flipping on a neon sign that says, "This is someone who knows their worth." Suddenly, you're not just existing, you're magnetic. And guess what? That magnetism doesn't only affect dating. Your friends feel it too. The ones who used to compete with you start seeing you as inspiration instead of rivalry. Why? Because you're no longer trapped in comparison games. You celebrate them, and that energy makes them want to celebrate you too. Your family feels it. They notice you setting boundaries where you once stayed silent. They see you respecting yourself in ways you never did before, and deep down, it gives them permission to do the same in their own lives. Even strangers notice it. Ever had someone tell you, "There's just something about you"? That's not luck. That's self-love radiating out like sunlight. You become the person people want to sit next to, talk to, connect with, because your energy doesn't drain them, it lifts them. And yes, let's talk about romantic relationships too. When you live from self-love, the whole dynamic shifts. The wrong people lose interest fast because they can't manipulate you anymore. But the right ones, they rise to meet you. They see your value, they respect your standards, and they know they can't just come with games and excuses. They either level up or they get left behind. That's the power of choosing yourself every single day. Here's the best part. Self-love is contagious. The moment you start walking in it, other people start catching it. Your friends start raising their standards. Your siblings start setting boundaries. Your co-workers start respecting themselves more. You light a spark that spreads without you even trying. It's like being the first one to clap at a concert. At first, it feels awkward, but then suddenly the whole room is clapping with you. And this is why it matters, folks. This isn't just about your love life. This is about starting a chain reaction. Every time you choose yourself instead of settling, you give permission for others to do the same. Every time you say no to crumbs, someone else learns it's okay to do the same. That's how transformation spreads. So here's my challenge to you. Don't keep this message to yourself. Share it. Share it with your friends, your siblings, your co-workers, anyone who needs to hear it. Because when one person awakens to their power, it sparks others to do the same. And the world doesn't need more people begging to be chosen. The world needs more people choosing themselves, loudly, unapologetically, and daily. Let's lock this in with one last affirmation. Write it in the comments, claim it like it's already yours. I choose myself every day. My self-love is my power. I radiate energy that inspires others, and I will never settle for less than I deserve. Type it out. Show yourself. Show the world, because when you live this way, you don't just attract real love, you awaken it everywhere you go. And if this stirred something in you, don't stop here. Keep going, keep sharing, keep growing, because this journey of transformation, it's just getting started.